Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this crossover edition of Game Over Vancouver / Toronto. I'm Kaja Antic. I'm here with Alex Rickman of Canucks Chronicles, along with Dominic from Game Over Toronto. And we're here to talk about the Canucks beating the Toronto Maple Leafs for the second time this season, 2-1. The Leafs scored a goal against the Canucks this time. Before we get into any of the recap, just remember, shift into hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your new source for all the biggest stories in hockey, bringing a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max Van Oot, Daphne Melbuff, and Kevin Laramie every Monday and Thursday for your fill on the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network channel or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon. Head to our website, thegameovernetwork.com, for more. All right, so Canucks win 2-1. The Leafs score a goal. Morgan Rielly, who, from what I got from the broadcast, because they really liked hitting this point home, has not had a good season in Toronto.
No, that's true. He's had a bit of he had a real slow start to this year. He has not been living up to what we expect from Morgan Rielly as the top defenseman on the Maple Leafs. But he's been coming alive lately. I think this Western road trip for the Leafs we've started to see him live up to that potential, live up to what we know he's capable of. The goal tonight was a nice goal, and he's been more involved in the play lately. But just the way you're saying that Kaya is it shows just how low the bar can be for the Leafs sometimes. They scored a goal. Good job, team. You won a round 2 years ago. Good job, Leafs.
I mean, that's kind of the Canucks fan base right now with PD getting the assist on the Filip Hronek goal. I was just like, finally, people will stop talking about him not putting up points. Like, yeah. Anyway, it was not the first goal of the game for Morgan Rielly, also, a Vancouver product. Filip Hronek, with his third of the season, assisted with a great feed by Elias Pettersson. Alex, you know my feelings about Filip Hronek. Thoughts?
Your favorite player.
Oh my god.
I remember sitting there, seeing that Hronek scored and just thinking, oh, Kaya must have loved that. But no, that was, like, for a player who I have definitely been critical of overall this season, that was a really nice goal from him. Really good set play. The pass from Pettersson was just absolute perfection. Yeah, really, and especially in the absence of Quinn Hughes, it feels like Hronek hasn't necessarily been stepping up as much as one would hope he would. In some moments, it feels like more of that has had to come from Marcus Pettersson, Elias Pettersson, our collection of Petterssons. But I feel like, yeah, Hronek getting that moment, I think overall he did have quite a good game today, and I think that was a nice way to cap off, hopefully, the end of our time without Quinn Hughes.
I thought you were gonna say hopefully the end of our time with Filip Hronek, and I was like, oh, we could wish. Yeah, speaking of Leafs defense problems, do you want a gently used Filip Hronek? I'm tempted.
I mean, if he just does that, if he scores that goal over and over again, we'll take him. I mean, we do need more offense from the blue line. So,
Okay.
but I'll be honest, I don't know. I have not followed Filip Hronek much this year, but so far,
Neither have I.
the sales pitch has not been great.
Can we have OEL back, maybe? If it was
Hold on. Let's not get crazy here.
the trade is 1-for-1. Filip Hronek for Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Who says no?
I think the Leafs, and I also think the Leafs would say no. I think Leafs have been fairly happy with OEL this year. I know his time in Vancouver was not his best, but we've gotten a much better version, a more effectively utilized Oliver Ekman-Larsson this year in Toronto.
He was only bad
You know
because
what,
of his contract. I'm sorry.
I'm happy for him that he is rebounding now. Like, it feels like just nothing was going right with the entire team during his time in Vancouver, so it's just good that he's gotten himself into a better situation. Obviously, now has a ring through his time with the Panthers. Just good for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about. Moving on, my favorite player, Brock Besser, power play goal. The power play actually does something without Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes, is like, I don't want to say he's the Patrick Mahomes because he gets hit a lot and no, there's no penalties called, but he is definitely the reason that the Canucks team wins any games. So the fact that we're on a 3-game win streak now without him, especially getting a power play goal after we've had some abysmal nights on the power play without him. Awesome. Phil Prona gets an assist on that goal as well. So,
Big,
yeah.
big night for all the Philip Hronik fans out there. Yeah, yeah. The Besser goal. I mean, what a shot! What a shot from that guy. That was a beauty. But I mean, Joe Woll as the Toronto Maple Leafs goalie has had a strong season, but those 2 goals are I don't know what you're supposed to do on them. That I think Vancouver absolutely earned both of those goals. They were great shots, great plays on both. And as a Leafs fan, I'm more angry with the Leafs for not scoring more goals than I can be with the goaltending or the defense necessarily for failing to contain Vancouver.
Yeah, from what I've seen this season with Joseph Woll, especially like I don't watch Leaf games that often, to be honest. But great pass by Hedel too. Yeah, it was a double. It was a double Phillip, with an F assist on the Besser goal. It was kind of funny hearing it on the stream because I thought, like when they announced it in the arena, because I thought it skipped back. And I was like, what? Why is Al saying Philip again? Oh no, it's the other one. But yeah, it was a good game from Woll. Both goalies were amazing. I mean, all 3 goalies were amazing tonight, let's just say that. Because yeah, that Tredemko left in like the first 5 minutes, was it?
Roughly, something like that.
I believe it was after the first commercial break. So he sort of made it however long that was. And then
6 minutes.
when they came back, he wasn't there anymore. I mean, as as the outsider, I know the name Thatcher Demko. I know he's a very, very good goalie. Like, how concerned should Canucks fans be about this moment? Is this just kind of a like, do we think it's just, oh, he's feeling a little bit off, and so let's take the rest of the game off and then take the 2 weeks for 4 Nations and come back strong? Or is there some more concern here? Are we worried that Demko might miss an extended period after the break too?
Just with, like, you definitely hope that it's the former and that it's just a case of something was a little bit off and they're trying to be cautious.
Mm-hmm.
With his injury history, though, whenever he goes down, you can't really help but be a little worried about what's to come. So, hoping for the best there, but got a lot more to see. And it's especially frustrating to come now because he's coming off of his first couple of good games strung in a row this season. He obviously had a rough start getting back with his injury, so rough to see, scary sight to see him have to leave a game at this point.
I honestly think it was a precaution. I think he tweaked something, some kind of muscle just slightly, and then decided, I was like, yeah, you know what? Best course of action, not to wreck this any further. Get him out of the game. That's personally what I thought. Obviously, I don't know. But I don't know. I mean, it's similar to what I've heard about Joseph Woll, though, because it feels like he does really good in net, and then all of a sudden he's injured again. That's been like the pattern.
You gotta, and basically Joseph Woll's career thus far has been like the Leafs playoff series with the Boston Bruins last year. When he was in, he was lights out, and then he got hurt on a play that didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, and then he was out, and the Leafs went downhill again. Thankfully, there's a fella named Anthony Stolarz sitting on the bench now that makes it a little bit, gives everybody a little bit more breathing room there. Although I will say, I was impressed from what I saw of Kevin Lankinen. Admittedly, the first time I've seen him play ever, and I thought he was strong. He robbed Matthews. He had some other really strong saves, especially late there when the Leafs were pushing with the net empty for the last 2 minutes with the power play and really pushing. He did a solid job. He came in an odd position solid play from the Canucks backup there.
Yeah, no, it feels like all season he's been able to handle this job really well. Like, obviously when he was signed, I was kind of at the time thinking it was going to be a backup and that Demko was going to be able to start earlier on in the season. Obviously proved not to be the case, was kind of some wishful thinking on my end. But no, he's been so good so much of the time, and I think that's why we're still in a playoff hunt in a season where Thatcher Demko has missed so much of it and not necessarily looked like himself throughout the vast majority of his playing time.
Yeah, sorry, Lankinen will be robbing 34 a lot in the coming weeks. I'm assuming that's about 4 nations. We are getting to that Filipino, which is my favorite name in our chat. Also said post isn't good goaltending. Technically it is because they're boxing out the net enough.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly. You wanna keep the puck out of the net. The post isn't the net. If you hit the post, that's because you didn't have any net to shoot at.
If all you're giving him is the post, that's doing your job.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say after Leon Draisaitl said that, I was just like, you know what? How much hockey do you know? Because technically, Elias Pettersson would know because he played a goalie once.
And to Mr. Draisaitl on that point, I say post also isn't good offense.
Ooh.
Challenging Leon
Excellent.
Draisaitl.
Excellent point. Well made. Unless you're doing the like shinny thing where instead of shooting it in the net, you're shooting at the post.
Oh, yeah.
If that's what Leon thinks you're supposed to do in an NHL game, it's no wonder the Oilers didn't win the Stanley Cup last year.
I mean, Leon thinks a slap shot is a good shootout move to this day. So anyway, overall, it wasn't a super eventful game. I forgot that you guys had a Myers, and I think that was the most like alarming moment for the game because I was like, why is Myers doing? Oh, there's a Myers on that. On that side.
Sometimes Leafs fans forget we have a Myers as well. He's kind of the extra D man, and he comes in here and there. He scored in the game against Seattle the other night, and he does bring a little bit of potential from the blue line, a little bit of offensive potential from the blue line, but he's kind of there. Him and Simon Benoit and Connor Timmins kind of cycled through the last spot, and it was his turn tonight, and I guess he was more of a net negative because he did take the penalty, although the Leafs killed it off. But he's kind of there just in case.
I mean, I like how you said, yeah, the Leafs fans don't even know. I mean, Canucks fans know we have a Myers, but that's because he's like 6 foot forever. So, if we're being honest, yeah. Alex, I have a question. Power play. Is it back? I'm
hesitant to officially declare it's back. I'm gonna say it's not back.
Okay.
In other words, yeah, it's back.
Other words, yeah, okay. It is behind the ever-present "It's so over" is an I messed up the quote. We're so back is what I'm trying to say. There's a meme I have in my head, but it's not working. Yeah, 3 PDs, 2 Myers, 1 Hronik, 0 Hughes.
Oof.
Hey, I mean, it still worked out, which is also super funny because all 3 of the PDs on Vancouver. Speaking of which, second PD gets the second star of the night. So first star is Filip Hronik. That took a lot of strength to say. Yeah, but he did have 2 points tonight, so kudos to him. Elias Pettersson, the elder. Yeah, the assist. Also had a very good defensive night, which everyone seems to forget. Power play. It worked tonight. It's not as good without Hughes, but like the Chiefs without Mahomes were like 38-0 in like 3 quarters. So I think they ended up scoring like a field goal in that game. It was like the last game of the regular season. I'm sorry for making a lot of football references. The Super Bowl is tomorrow, and yeah, apologies if you don't. And then Morgan Riley, local product, gets the uh third star for the evening. Yeah, any football is dumb. Yeah. Anyway,
As a football fan, I agree.
I, okay, but you're a 49ers fan. You can't.
I'm not.
No, you're not?
I'm a Seahawks fan. How dare you accuse me
Oh,
of that?
who am I thinking of?
There's a few in the group chat.
Okay, never mind. I was like,
Yeah.
I thought. Oh
Ow.
no, now I know. No, my
a bold accusation
apologies.
to make.
My um, Dominic, what's your takes on football?
I'm football. The last football game I watched was last year's Super Bowl, so I really have no opinions. I don't even have like a team. Like I can't tell you. I don't have a team I root for. I guess theoretically, if you're really like gun to my head kind of situation, I guess I would say Buffalo, just because they're geographically close to Toronto. But otherwise, I have no thoughts. I have no idea who's going to win tomorrow. This as far as I'm concerned, the game that we just watched here was the biggest sporting event of the weekend. Tomorrow is a concert that they've decided to bookend with a football game, and so that's what I'll be tuning in for.
That's valid. I can't wait to hear Not Like Us
Yeah,
broadcast throughout New Orleans. I was gonna say my team was the Patriots, but that's just because was the Patriots, but that was just because when they were really good and they were in their dynasty era, at my dad's friend's Super Bowl party, there was like a betting pool and the kids were allowed to join in on it, and I was like 11 and I won.
Was this a party hosted by FanDuel or something? What the hell? Are you gonna let the kids get the kids start?
It was on an Excel sheet. That's all I can remember. I was a child. Buffalo Suns doesn't even have any palm trees.
Just to go back to this, did you bet like money or was it
It wasn't my
candy?
money.
Or, okay, oh, so you're betting your parents' money.
Yeah.
Or okay, all
I
right.
knew about this, right?
Yeah, were they aware?
Oh, yeah. Well, my dad was aware because he was there. I'm not sure my mom was, but you know what? It's all good. My favorite football team overall is the SFU Red Leafs because they don't exist anymore. And they were also shouted out on the hockey team was shouted out on the broadcast. Hockey team still exists. They actually have 2 hockey teams. Yeah. Anyway, aside from everything that goes on at the wonderful school in Burnaby Mountain, there wasn't a lot else to talk about this game. Demko goes down. It's just, another thing, putting 5 lollipops on the Chiefs money line. I'm gonna do that tomorrow. Yeah, are y'all ready to, like the NHL, head into the Four Nations break?
Absolutely. I'm so ready.
So ready. I'm just like Thatcher Demko's lower body muscles, I am also ready. So before we get into that, looking for ways to help an upstart media company employing over 30 young journalists and analysts across Canada, if you have a few spare bucks kicking around, you better head to our Patreon page at patreon.com/thegameovernetwork. There you'll find multiple tiers featuring different rewards and goodies for helping us grow. There's extra access, exclusive looks behind the scenes, Discord benefits, merch discounts, opportunities to give us feedback, and you can join us for special shows live where you can interact with hosts as we launch more ways to improve your experience. If you're not able to spare a few dollars, we have a free tier available so you don't miss out. If you really want to help us, make sure to click like and subscribe on YouTube, rate us 5 stars on your favorite podcast app, and share our work on your social media of choice. That's patreon.com/thegameovernetwork for tantalizing goodies. I heard, do you like the NHL? And I instinctively said no. Thank you, Mark, for being real. All right, so the Four Nations face off, which if you don't know, and if you don't know, then how do you miss the 5,000 ads every single day? I get them watching WWE. like on Netflix, not affiliated whatsoever. And I'm just trying to see Rhea Ripley punch somebody out. And there comes the aggravating noise of Sidney Crosby saying 4 nations facing off twice in the same ad.
Why do you have Sidney Crosby in the ad say the same thing twice?
I honestly
Do they not have the budget for a second person?
no, it's
Or a second line.
literally
Just had Sid say something else.
it's Chat GPT ass like script, honestly. But no, anyway, aside from the ads, 4 Nations Face Off, it is a 4-country tournament, but it's not affiliated with the double IHF, so it's not really means a lot. It's just the NHL being like, hey, here's international hockey, so they can pull the rug out from under all the people wanting to play in the Olympics next year. It's a theory. Anyway, literally a game theory. It's 4 nations. It's Canada, the United States. I almost said Czechia, not Czechia.
You've got Philip Aronik on the brain. You're just like, that guy is gonna be there some way, somehow. So we've just invited Czechia.
He's on the ice. He's the ref. Sweden and Finland are the teams competing in this. Both teams, especially not having more Chronic for Kaja's view. Stop. Their starting goaltender would be David Riddick. Honestly, I would love to see that happen. I would love it. Big save, Dave. Sorry?
Big save.
Oh. Vemelka. Yeah. Oh, there's a few. Like Dostal. They have a few.
Oh, yeah.
They have a few goaltenders, but I'm like, because he is the most
Big save
experienced,
Dave
right?
would be there. Yeah, he'd be on the bench. He'd be the third stringer at the very least.
Yeah. What was my train of thought? Oh, yeah. Both teams have a few players on the roster. The Canucks, I almost said have 4 players or personnel involved. Not anymore. They have 3. Because they traded, they did a trade last week, and was that last week or 2 weeks ago?
Last week, I think.
Yeah, it was the 31st. Because we were on this show when the trade happened, the other one. That was a fun night. Anyway, 4 nations for the Canucks. It's Rick Tocchet is behind the bench for Team Canada. Elias Pettersson, 40, the forward, is going to be on Team Sweden, and Quinn Hughes, on his own accord, will be playing for the United States. The Leafs have a few more than us, don't they?
It's 3 for the Leafs as well. It's Matthews, Marner, and Nylander. Matthews are the Americans, Marner for the Canadians, Nylander for the Swedes. Jani Hakanpää was originally supposed to go play for Finland. He was named to the team and has played 2 NHL games for the Toronto Maple Leafs this year, but has been hurt for all the times before those 2 games and all the times after those 2 games, and I'm pretty sure for those 2 games as well. And I think he really wanted to go. I think the Finns wanted him to go. Leafs fans were kind of looking at it like, oh, this is going to be, instead of an AHL conditioning stint, he'll get that in the 4 nations. But ultimately has been ruled out because of his, I think he has no cartilage left in his knees, I think is his injury, and therefore is not playing much hockey. But he did show up weirdly to the Leafs held their annual outdoor practice, where they sort of go and they invite the community out to come and watch the team, and they play a little 3-on-3 tournament. And he was there for that for some reason. I was there and I remember seeing him walk by me and going, Jani Hakanpää's here? Really? And so he played in that, so he can skate, but just probably not at the level that the Leafs or Team Finland would like him to. So there were supposed to be 4, but he's dropped out, so we're down to 3 as well.
Yeah, I would have thought there would have been more, but then again, I was like, who does Team Canada have on defense? I know he's had a rough year, but like, I think Morgan Riley would have had to do it.
Yeah, Morgan Riley and John Tavares kind of felt like bubble
Oh, yeah.
guys for Team Canada, and then you sort of look at like Matthew Nyes was maybe a bit of a long shot for the Americans. Same with the goaltenders, Stolars and Wool, both Americans, but the Americans are so deep when it comes to goaltending that they didn't need either of them. They didn't need guys in a admittedly very good tandem, but both with some potential injury issues. So the Leafs have a couple of guys who I think could have gone had things gone a little bit differently, but for right now, it's just the big three.
I completely forgot John Tavares existed. Was blinded by the amulet. Anyway, um, so there's some conversations. Quinn Hughes is not the biggest news that may miss the Four Nations face-off on his own accord due to injury. Sidney Crosby, big deal for Team Canada. The only faith I have in this team, because while Connor McDavid can outscore his problems, we've seen what happens when he tries, and the Oilers don't have good goaltending. That's what Team Canada has this tournament. So I am not convinced that he alone can save this. Sidney Crosby, I have placed all my faith in you since I was 7 years old. If I have any ounce of nationalism in this tournament, it is because of him, and that's, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, I mean, if Crosby's been like the face of Team Canada when it comes to NHL players for a very long time, obviously because of the golden goal, also the 2014 Olympics, which everybody sort of forgets because they were at a weird time and the tournament wasn't all that exciting, but Canada won it anyways. And even the also forgettable 2016 World Cup of Hockey, like he's been kind of the guy for Team Canada, and so you kind of want him there. Just for the like legacy of it, if nothing else. And so if he's able to go, stick him on the fourth line, play him 5 minutes a night, and just have him basically be the glorified mascot. You know, he can just sort of be there, let him still wear the C, but he should just be there to kind of rally everybody for vibes. And you know what? You can still put him out there in an important situation, and he can still make magic happen, even if he maybe cannot keep up with everything for the entirety of the tournament, if this injury is truly that bad.
I was gonna say Rick Tocchet knows a thing or two about benching players, so could just bench Sidney Crosby. Quinn Hughes is also potentially out with what seems like a lower body injury. He's missed the last 3 games. And yeah, he apparently has been left to his own decision, from what I understand, of if he plays for Team USA. Rick Tocchet made a comment saying, "Oh yeah, I can't convince him to not play because then it looks like I'm like playing for Team Canada." But like, I don't know. I think
this is kind of the one advantage of this being like a truly like it's the NHL has made their own tournament. The one advantage of it is the pressure is on the players, I think, to play. Unlike the Olympics or the World Championships or anything else, like in those situations, you think the Canucks are going to let Quinn Hughes go to the Olympics if he's even a little bit hurt? You think the Penguins are going to let Crosby go to the Olympics even if he's just a little bit hurt? They're going to be saying, no, you got to stay back. You got to stay back. We need you for the Stanley Cup. Like they can exert some level of pressure on it because they don't want their guys getting hurt in a tournament that doesn't directly benefit them. Whereas, because this is the NHL, the teams are now being pressured by the league to send the best players. The league wants the best players there. They want the publicity and the excitement that comes with, Crosby and McDavid going up against Matthews and the Tkachuk brothers. Like they want all of that. They want those guys there. So they're telling the teams, unless they really cannot go, send them, make them go. But then of course Alex Pietrangelo says, no, really, I'm not going, but I'll still play in all of my team's NHL games. But I do think the league is putting that pressure on, and that's why you're seeing it essentially be left up to the players. Now the players have to say, yes or no. There is no bad guy. The team can't step in and be the bad guy and protect the players. They have to make that decision, and they're all hockey players and they all want to play through everything. So I fully expect to see Quinn Hughes and Sidney Crosby, even in limited minutes, dressing for Team Canada and Team USA.
I mean, I think it's just the NHL also shooting itself in the foot, though, if it's trying to pressure these players into playing, because then you're making a less entertaining run for the playoffs, you're making a less entertaining trade deadline, potentially, you're making a less entertaining just Stanley Cup final, potentially. Alex, what's your thoughts on the Quinn Hughes ongoing everything?
Yeah, like, I think David Quadrelli at Canucks Army said he heard it was an oblique injury to Hughes.
Okay.
And I know those ones can be a little funny in how they heal. Like, sometimes it's going to be a while until you're fully right with that. In terms of letting him go or not, like, part of me does back letting him make his own decision in the sense that, like, first of all, he's a grown-ass man. He's allowed to make his own decisions. But also in the sense of, with an expiring contract coming up in a few years, I feel like we are partly in Operation Keep Quinn Happy. So if that factors in here, and if you don't let him go, is that going to create friction that maybe potentially leads to a situation where he's going to be less willing or able to re-sign in the future? On the other hand, like, we're in a playoff hunt here. Playoffs are not a guarantee right now, and if we're having a push without Quinn Hughes, that's a serious shot in the foot of any chance that we have. So I lean towards preferring that he don't go, but ultimately, like, this does have to be his decision, I think. Also, as a biased Team Canada fan, I don't necessarily want to see the best defenseman on the planet playing for Team USA.
What do you mean? Evan Bouchard is an American. No, and counterpoint kind of to that is, like, he's the captain of the Canucks, so I feel like he also has to set an example of putting one team ahead of the other, because it's also not like he's the captain of the United States. But yeah, I don't know. Like, again, grown-ass man. I have no control. I have the same hair color as his mother. That's about all the relation I have to her. I cannot control what this man does. But, like, bro, come on. Come on, Quinny. Like, be serious with me here. Like, your team has the chance to, long shot, win a Stanley Cup. Your team has this very minuscule, but there's a chance. And it's a thing that you get a ring, you carry it for the rest of your career. Would you rather have that? Or would you rather win a tournament that literally just started existing like 6 months ago, is not technically best on best because a lot of the best players in the league are not playing, and like, it's not like it's the World Championships from the IIHF. It's not like it's the Olympics. It's literally just something the NHL put together because people were done with the All-Star game.
And, like, on top of that, you mentioned you win the cup, you get the ring. I think you get a little mini Stanley Cup as well. This is a question I have been having about this tournament, which, for the record, I am excited for and on board with, and, like, am ready to watch every single game of. But what do you win when you win the Four Nations face-off? What do you get? Is there a trophy?
You get Greenland.
Jeez, Donald. Okay. Like, do you get a trophy? Do you get a medal? Do you get a ribbon? Like, what?
T-shirt.
Yeah, t-shirt, a hat. Like, when the final horn goes in Boston, 2 weeks from now, and one team celebrates, are they going to give them something? Or do they just go, congratulations, you won, pat on the head, now go back to your NHL teams?
I would imagine they went to, like, the dollar store or just, like, Party City and got a bunch of those, like, little gold medals that you would get in, like, soccer tournaments when you were a kid, or, like, school sports day. That's what you
Yeah.
would get. I got a lot of those medals in soccer because I was not good. Um,
Or they could go to like a cheesy gift shop and get a bunch of those like fake Oscars and hand them out to people and just say Four Nations winner on it.
some of them are spelled wrong.
I like how this tournament is being taken as seriously as the Dundies.
Yeah, right?
Pretty much. And like, I'm not somebody that's particularly excited for it because even though I'm constantly reminded every day,
Four Nations facing off.
oh my god. And winner gets orange slices. Exactly. Like, I find it odd that there's no announcement from the league. Oh, there's like a new trophy, there's like medals, because like with the Olympics you get medals, with the World Championships you get medals and trophies and stuff.
I'll reveal my age a little bit here. I remember the 2004 World Cup, and I remember seeing on Sportsnet or TSN or one of the channels, like they revealed the trophy, that very ugly trophy, that they did a big reveal of it. And yeah, I'm surprised there hasn't been, I don't know, like a trophy in the big shape of a 4 or something. Like, just like give them a prize. I don't know. Right now, orange slices is kind of the best option.
Yeah, it depends on if the medal is allowed to come into the States from the Canadian border.
Tariffs on the medals.
It's now a Six Nations tournament when the game switched from Montreal to Boston. Anyway, before we move on to just get a pat on the back and an attaboy from Bettman, I don't know if anybody wants that. I'm gonna ask you both if you could describe your feeling towards this break in 10 words or less.
Whoa.
Like, it doesn't have to be about the tournament,
Yeah.
just like the break. Like, hopefully Quinn Hughes hopefully Thatcher Demko gets some rests, and hopefully we re-sign Brock Besser, but that's just a personal thing of mine, and that is more than 10 words, but I do not care. I set the rules. I can break them.
All right. Excited for tournament. Happy Leafs players get to have rest. 10 words.
Awesome.
I mean, it's something, I guess.
Yep, pretty much. I'm just like, you know what? It's 2 weeks instead of the normal 1 week for hockey breaks for teams. So hopefully, again, more rest for both the Leafs and the Canucks.
Yeah.
And
I feel like when it's the Olympics, assuming NHL players are allowed to go, then I'm actually going to be hyped because it's going to mean something. But one, let's see that actually happen, and two, now we got to wait a year for that. So
yeah, the last time that we had Olympics with NHL players in it, I was in the 6th grade. The next time we'll have Olympics, hopefully with NHL players in it, I will be after my undergrad. So thank you, NHL, for your amazing decisions.
What? That, I'll just say real quick, that is kind of why I am looking forward to the tournament, is because, look, growing up as a Leafs fan, there were not many opportunities to cheer for a hockey team that was winning. So some of my favorite hockey memories, like viewing, are the Olympics and the World Cups. Like, I remember the 2002 Olympics, the 2010 Olympics, 2014 Olympics, and as I mentioned, the ill-fated 2016 World Cup, and honestly, the 2004 World Cup as well. Like, those were opportunities as a Leafs fan, being used to seeing your team lose, to actually experience what it was like to win, because the Canadian team would win. We don't talk about the 2006 Olympics. Those we can leave as far in the past as we want. So like, not having this sort of tournament for the last several years, 9 years, I guess, since the last World Cup, it is like, I have missed it. And seeing the games and looking ahead to the games, it is, firing up a little bit of nostalgia for me for those Olympics past, even though I know it's not the same. I know it doesn't mean as much, and I know it's not truly best on best because Mr. Goalposts, Leon Draisaitl can't be there, and all the other greats.
Draisaitl, Pasternak, I mean Ovechkin, but that's for a different thing.
Yeah.
Ovechkin would probably find a way to skip it anyway. Let's be real here. Like he only showed up to one All-Star game, I swear, in the last decade because his kid wanted to go. Yeah.
But no, I hurt my wrist. I can't play. I don't know. I'm sorry. I shoot goal again.
I broke my leg again. I unhealed it just for these 2 weeks. I am back after that. Before we get back to some Leafs and Canucks talk, we did luck out with the Canucks being good when we were growing up because we did not have to experience. We've had to experience that when we didn't have the NHL Olympics though.
Yeah, like the moment the Olympics went away, everything fell apart for the Canucks too. So
yeah. I think that's to blame. Anyway, before we get into trading some questions about our teams back and forth, if you're enjoying the show so far, you probably want more of this, right? Well, make sure you hit the like button on this video, click subscribe on our channel, and make sure you check out the notification bell so you're alerted when we go live. If you're listening to our podcast, please give us a 5-star rating or even write a positive review. If you really like us, make sure to follow us on your favorite social media platforms. You can find the Game Over Network on Blue Sky at thegameovernetwork.com, on TikTok and Twitter at Game Over NHL, on Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn at Game Over Network. Dominic, where can they find you?
Make sure, of course, everybody should be following Game Over Toronto as well. If you want to continue listening to Leafs talk, you can find us, of course, Game Over Toronto on YouTube and all the various podcast apps. And you can follow me personally at DominicJ25 on Instagram. I am on Blue Sky, although I don't really post on there very often. And if people want to talk some Star Wars, they can check out my Star Wars podcast called The Star Wars Underworld.
Heck yeah. All right, and Alex, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, you can find my site at Canucks Chronicles across Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. You can find my personal Instagram at Alex_Rick03. I have a personal Blue Sky too. I have totally forgotten what my handle is, but oh well, such is life.
I think it's the same. I think it's the same. I think.
Yeah, might be, might not be. We'll find out.
I just know I think I follow you. Anyway,
Are you sure you do?
probably. And then you can find me Kaja May pretty much everywhere. You can also find us at thegameovernetwork.com where you can sign up for our upcoming newsletter. Alrighty. So, here's the part where we talk a little bit more about our respective teams. So for this little bit, we will each ask. I mean, I think I'll give Dominic. You get 2 questions.
Okay.
Because there's only one of you and there's 2 of us. But yeah, would you want to go first or?
Sure. I'm gonna ask. Obviously, I don't watch very many Canucks games. I don't think you guys watch very many Leafs games. So we're gonna kind of trade questions back and forth. So I looking as an outsider in the Canucks, I'm gonna ask you some questions about the Canucks, and we'll see where you guys are feeling. So this Canucks season has been weird. Let's all acknowledge that. You guys had such a good year last year. You were this close to knocking off the Oilers in the playoffs. And this year, the more entertaining story has honestly been off the ice. There's been a lot there. So let me ask you both, what is success for the Canucks this year? There's been so much chaos, so much drama. Do you just kind of write off this season and go, screw it, just be ready for the 25-26 season? Or do you feel that you have to salvage something, make the playoffs and do something because just sort of to prove that all of that noise was just noise?
Ooh. That's a really good question.
Oh, we are 4 points up on the Flames.
Are we?
There you go.
According to NHL.com, we are.
Well, you'd think they'd know.
I sure would hope
you'd
so.
hope.
Yeah, like if anyone's gonna know, right?
We're also 1 point back of LA. For reference.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first? Or?
Sorry. I think at the end of the day, I'm more concerned with making sure we have the ship right ahead of next season for more of a long-term window. Like, just make sure that last year wasn't our only actual kick at the can. Make sure that we can keep going for a couple of years now, at least as long as we have Quinn Hughes. I think we need to be trying to push. In terms of this year, however, I think honestly what I want to see is just nothing. Don't like go in at the deadline and say we have to go all in on this year and acquire a ton of rentals or something. Just make sure we have it right for next year. I think if Hughes is healthy, we'll make the playoffs regardless. I don't think we'll go too far regardless. Honestly, we're just such a mess, but let's just get it right for next season.
I'm kind of in the same boat. My biggest marker is it's success if we re-sign Brock Besser. Otherwise, I'm all good. No, I do think this team is a playoff team. I think they have the capability to knock out a Calgary, an LA, hopefully Colorado, but that's more personal. And yeah, I think for success for this team is the playoffs. Wild card, they're not getting very far. They're not going for the cup. Unless they pull off the Florida Cinderella run from a couple years ago, there's absolutely no way. They need a longer window. Yeah, like what Alex said there, they need a longer window. Bring back Toffoli. Let him stay in one team for a whole season. Oh my god. That man, okay, give Tyler a rest. Anyway, Alex, do you have a Leafs question?
Yeah, I want to ask Dominic, what do you think needs to happen with Mitch Marner ahead of his impending free agency? Like, is this a contract you want the Leafs signing? Is this something you may want to see him maybe like another Rantanen blockbuster, or is this something where you want to... What are you thinking?
That is kind of the question that's been sort of looming in the back of every Leafs fan's mind this year, because at the end of last season, after they got eliminated by the Bruins again, there was a feeling that Marner's time was up. It was done. Like, get him out of here. There were a lot of people that were basically sort of driving him to the airport in their minds. And then he's stuck around and he's come back, and he hasn't necessarily, lit the world on fire, but he's had a pretty solid season. He's had a very, very good season, kind of quietly. And so you look at him and you look at the situation and you think, generally speaking, is a team better with Mitch Marner on it or worse without Mitch Marner? And obviously the answer is worse without him. So I think you just got to let it play out. You got to let this season play out. You're not trading him. I think it's unlikely that there's going to be another blockbuster, sort of like the Mikko Rantanen one. It just seems unlikely. So play out the season, see what happens in the playoffs. Hope that you put the right pieces around him, and if the Leafs can finally live up to their potential, which I know that's a big if. I get it. I get that that's a big if. I've watched the last several seasons. I know. I've lived through that. But like let it play out. And if they can finally live up to that potential, then I think you go into, I think he goes into the negotiations with the upper hand, with the high ground. If they don't, then I think the Leafs go into it with the high ground. And I think if you give Mitch Marner, I said this the other night, I think if you give Mitch Marner some truth serum, I think he'd rather stay in Toronto. But I don't think he'd rather stay in Toronto to the point where if there's a better offer out there, he wouldn't take the better offer. He already, turned down better offers when he had his restricted free agency time. Columbus, really were willing to back up the Brinks truck for him, and he stuck around. I don't think that happens this time. I think if the Leafs don't give him what he wants, he goes to the open market, and then who's to say? A lot of teams are going to have a lot of money this offseason with the cap going up. So it's kind of maybe it's a bit of a cop out answer, but I think you just got to wait and see, and then hopefully sign that contract in the 5 days between the parade and the opening of free agency.
What's this? What's this I hear? He's being traded to the Lakers for all right. Dominic, do you have another Canucks related question?
Yes. So, okay, we just talked about all of the things that have kind of gone wrong for the Canucks this year with the last question. Simpler one. What's been, in you guys' eyes, a big success for the Canucks this year? What's been something that, while everybody's been looking at the Miller, Pettersson, all that chaos, while everybody's been eyes on that, what's been a Canucks success story for this year?
I think that's the harder question.
Definitely.
I Kiefer Sher. Yep. Thanks, Mark. I'm gonna take that. Kiefer Sherwood is the best player in the history of the NHL. I have no idea who Wayne is. He's just some guy. Kiefer Sherwood is the GOAT. Lankinen and Sherwood, thank you, Nashville. Yeah, Nashville really lucked out on the free agency this year, didn't they? Lankinen and Sherwood, they're the ones that have gone right. I think this is going to be controversial because it's still very fresh. I think the most success the Canucks have had is, even though they lost, January 31st, 2025, getting rid of JT Miller's $56 million contract and trading for somebody to help their decor, another depth piece, another center who is quick and can like move the puck effectively into the zone without having to dump and chase, and along with a very good prospect in Victor Mancini. I honestly think the most successful member of the Vancouver Canucks, if it's not Quinn Hughes, it's Patrick Allvin.
I'm just gonna take the cop-out answer and say Quinn Hughes. Like, just everything he's done on the ice this year, I cannot remember him putting a foot wrong. He, in all logic, I think needs to go back-to-back with the Norris Trophy. I honestly think he should be in the Hart conversation with how he's played and how destitute our team looks without him on the ice a lot of the time. So just, it's, maybe it's a bit of a cop-out answer to say him, but Quinn Hughes.
Filipino.
I mean,
Sorry.
the best is the best.
Yeah, I can't wait for Cale Makar to win it for scoring a bunch of goals, though. Filipino. Any year without Benning is a good one.
To that.
Cheers. Dominic, one last question for you.
Okay.
The Leafs made a coaching change heading into the season. Brought in Craig Berube, who famously brought the St. Louis Blues to a Stanley Cup in his first year. How do you think Berube's tenure has gone with the Leafs thus far, and how does it compare to coaches of the past? We don't have to name names, but Sheldon Keefe, Mike Babcock. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting with everything with the Leafs. The answer is kind of the same for this year, which is we have to see how the playoffs go, because none of those guys, Babcock, Keefe, like none of them have been able to take this team beyond. Okay, Keefe got one more win in the second round than Mike Babcock did, but that's like, and when I say one more win, I mean one more game won in the second round than Mike Babcock win, because Mike Babcock had a big old 0. This team has been very good in the regular season for a very long time. This run of Leafs, the last few years for the Leafs, that's the best they've ever been in the regular season. They've set records for points and wins and all that stuff. And every year the story is the same, as everybody knows, and as the chat has been chirping me all night for. They lose in the first round in 7 games to Boston or Tampa or Montreal or Columbus in 5 that one time for some reason. So the story is the same. We know how it goes. I want to see what he does in the playoffs. I want to see how this team does in the playoffs before I pass too much judgment on Craig Berube. I think he's done some things well. We've seen, this is the Leafs have been in first in the division at times this year, which never was the case under Keefe or Babcock. Again, with the exception of the weird Canadian division year, but that doesn't really count. So potentially, maybe this will be the year they push past through this, not just through the second round, but into the third round and potentially beyond. But ultimately everything, whether it's Marner's contract, whether it's the coaching thing, whether it's what to do with John Tavares or Matthew Nyes, or wondering if Nylander is overpaid, like any of those questions, the answer comes in May and June. That's when we'll find out. So it's a cop out. I know it. There's things that Berube has done that I like. There's things where I'm like, oh, that hasn't been great. When you guys were talking about the power play for the Canucks, I'm like, oh, this sounds familiar. This is like what we talk about a lot on Game Over Toronto. There's been things that haven't worked, although the power play's been better recently. So but it all comes down to, can you get out of the first round? Can you win more than one game in the second round? Ideally, can you win the second round? Ideally, can you win the third round? And ideally, again, we want to sign all these extensions in the week between the parade and the free agency opening.
I just want to say something. I'm 22 years old. The Leafs have won 2 playoff series in my lifetime. Before we get into, we're just gonna have a quick fire Q&A session. So put your questions in the chat, and 5 minutes or so, good for questions, and then we'll be good. And also, what better way to support something you love than by repping it on yourself? Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique lines. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, want to wear your love for the goalies proudly with our live and die by the goalie design, or if you just need another copy and a toque to get through the winter, we have you covered. Designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. Use QR code on stream now and take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. Alrighty, everybody. How many rounds has Buffalo won in my lifetime? I don't know. I will check that. Question. Whose fans hate Boston more?
Oh, interesting question, because because for you guys, it was the Stanley Cup. You lost the thing. To them. For us, it's been relentless. It's been like year after year after year after year of losing to Boston. So it's the question is it worse to lose on the biggest stage, lose the biggest thing, or to just consistently be beat up with like smaller versions of it? And I think, look, it takes 4 rounds to win the Stanley Cup. The last 4 playoff series that Boston has played Toronto in, Boston has won all of them. So I'm going to say the Leafs get the tiniest little edge because Boston has essentially won the Stanley Cup of beating the Leafs, beating them in 4 rounds.
Like, I don't want to diminish how much the people of Vancouver hate the Bruins. I'm going to agree. I think Toronto probably have the edge in that regard.
Yeah, because there's also like the original 6 aspect of it. There's
more history to it.
Yeah, there's more history. The Canucks just. Sorry?
I was going to say it was 4-1 thing.
Oh, right.
Began with Game 7, 2013. I remember that game so vividly well because I couldn't watch the first 2 periods of it because I was umpiring a baseball game. And I remember listening to it on the radio on the drive home, like with my dad. And I think it was Kadri who got the 4th goal for the Leafs. Like, it might not have been him, but I can't remember who it was exactly. But I remember they got the 4th goal and I thought, we've done it. It's good. We're all good. And then I sat down and watched 4 consecutive Boston goals and lost. It was truly devastating.
Yeah, that's, valid. And I think like with the Leafs with the Bruins Canucks rivalry, if you can call it that. It's more like the Canucks are just like, I hate you so much, and the Bruins are like, we don't even think about you. Whereas the Leafs and Bruins, they face off with each other more. There's more that. Dominic, what would he sacrifice that is precious to the Leafs if it means they beat Boston in the 7-game series? So I'm assuming like players, goods, the arena, Carlton.
Oh, I think you just found the line there, because I was going to say I'd sacrifice anything. I'm not sure I would give up Carlton.
Okay, good.
I'm not sure I would give up Carlton. Carlton is a gem, and I don't think we can get rid of Carlton. But anything else, like I was saying before, was the team better or worse without Mitch Marner? If it means beating the Bruins, okay, send him to Utah for a 7th round pick. Fine. Like same with Austin Matthews, same with John Tavares, same with William Nylander. If it means beating Boston in a 7-game series, send them all away for whatever. But yeah, I'd love to. I thought for sure last year they were going to win. I thought for sure that going into it, I was like, this is going to happen. And then they went down 3-1, and then they clawed back into it, and were winning in the 3rd period there for a minute in Game 7, and then. But yeah, look, to win, everything has to be on the table. You have to be willing to trade anybody or, make any move, but you also don't want to make any move for the sake of making a move. And because when you do that, oftentimes you wind up making the team worse. People often make the comparison to the Toronto Raptors and the Kawhi Leonard trade. There's not many trades like that out there. And a lot of times when teams try and make those trades, when they try and force those trades, it doesn't work. That's a very specific situation where it worked. And it was good enough for one championship. I'm not saying they would have won more if they hadn't made that trade, but it was enough for one, and that was it. And I wouldn't trade the Raptors championship for anything, but you do have to, there's a lot of factors you got to consider.
Must be nice having an NBA team, huh?
It is. It's all right.
No one cares about, like, I don't know, maybe Memphis, and put them over here.
Exactly. Yeah. Like no one cares about Memphis.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. You could call them you could just keep the name and call them the Grizzlies.
I think that'd work.
The Vancouver Grizzlies. I mean, we have Grizzly Bears. It's fine.
It rolls off the tongue perfectly.
Exactly. It sounds so familiar. Really quick. Leafs versus Sens round 1. Who wins?
Okay. So this is a question of the present versus the past. What is more likely to happen
now this year?
I know, but so the Leafs have the wonderful history of never winning in the first round recently. However, when I was a kid, the Leafs played the Senators just about every year in the first round. One year was the second round, but they would play the Senators every year in the playoffs, and every year they would win. Didn't matter how much better Ottawa was in the regular season, the Leafs would beat that. So what is stronger? The Leafs always beating the Senators in the playoffs, or the Leafs always losing in the first round of the playoffs? That's the question. Which piece of black magic has more power in this scenario? I don't know, but I would love to see it. I don't want to play Boston or Florida or Tampa again. I want to see a different team.
Here you go, the Montreal Canadiens. All right. Alex,
no.
As a complete outsider from these markets, who do you think wins?
On paper, I think I would be giving it to, despite their history, Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, one, the game's not played on paper, it's played on ice, and in first round, I haven't seen a lot so far that would make me think otherwise. Now, Craig Berube does, as we touched on, bring a new element where you don't know what he can get out of this team in the playoffs. The other interesting factor is the man in between the pipes for the Senators is former Bruins goaltender Linus Ullmark. So could he, in theory, come back to haunt Toronto?
So this is. I'm glad you bring this up, because in the one game of the Boston series last year that Ullmark played, that was the Leafs' best game. and that they did win that game very convincingly, which you can't really say for Game 5, which they also won by the skin of their teeth thanks to Nyes in overtime. But that was probably their best game of the series was against Ullmark. So maybe he doesn't bring the same Boston dark magic that Jeremy Swayman, or if we want to go into the past, Tuukka Rask did.
My goat. He's the only Bruins goaltender that won the Stanley Cup. Anyway, moving on. I think that's it for the show tonight. Thank you all so much for joining us. I've been Kaya May. I'm here with Alex from Canucks Chronicles and Dominic from Game Over Toronto. You've been tuning into Game Over Vancouver. Thank you so much. Remember to like, rate, and review, subscribe, follow, do all that fun stuff. The Vancouver Canucks beat the Toronto Maple Leafs 2-1 on home ice. And they are heading into the Four Nations face-off break, potentially Demko-less, Hughes-less, but not winless. All right, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Have a great night, everybody. See you around.